the sole survivor of a fallen alien planet, an orphan sworn to protect his city, a teenager bitten by a radioactive spider. Three of the most recognizable characters from comic book lore.
Everyone knows about them. They are icons, and not just icons in the comic book industry. You see a Spider-Man, and you not only think of comic books, but you think of toys as well. Sometimes they think of movies, video games.
Comics aren't just forgotten treasures buried in your basement anymore. These little books have exploded off the page and grown into much, much more. Graphic novels, toys, statues, and anything else you can think of has been touched by comics in some way. The two biggest comic companies are Marvel Comics, who brought us Wolverine and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and DC Comics, who created Superman and Batman. These two publishing powerhouses have nearly 10,000 characters, and the biggest have stories carrying on for over 70 years.
The storylines are very interesting. Being able to follow the story from issue to issue. The issues come out about once a month, so it's not like a big read all at one time. And you can have 3 or 4 different stories going on at the same time.
The topics tackled in comics aren't only good versus evil, they cover relationships, substance abuse, politics, racism, and death. Well, sort of.
Very few have died and stayed gone. So it's interesting to see how they kill them off, and then it's even more interesting to wait and see how they're going to bring them back to life.
Some of these storylines have even been rebooted or retold.
It's a good starting off point for people just to come in. When Batman is coming up on 700 issues or Detective is coming up on 1,000 issues, people are like, oh, I don't want to start now. I have to collect back 1,000 issues. It's like, no, jump in now. You'll get the whole thing. You'll get the whole story.
These elaborate tales are making their way into the classroom as well. More age-appropriate graphic novels or comic book adaptations featuring complete story arcs are available at Henry G. Izett Middle School here in Winnipeg, thanks to a $1,500 grant from the Public Library Board. The goal? To get more kids reading.
Using them in a school setting and encouraging discussion about graphic novels in a literature circle type environment, some of those students have grown to appreciate reading a little bit more.
The initiative is aimed at students from grades 5 to 8, and it's creating some big reading fans.
I don't usually like books, but if there's graphic novels, I'm super happy.
It's really good, and graphic novels are really fun.
They're easier to read for me than the real book, than the other books.
And for decades, we have seen comics invade our homes on TV.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Everything ranging from campy adventures to Emmy award-winning Saturday morning cartoon series. The popular TV series The Walking Dead started as a comic, and some even went the other way. When the series Buffy the Vampire Slayer was canceled, the comic book picked up where the show left off.
That brought a great deal of people into the comic book stores that had never been into comic book stores before.
Some of these comic book characters became so popular they managed to jump off the page and onto the big screen, making them larger than life.
I know why you're afraid to go out at night. The Batman.
They're really well done. Marvel has hit its stride, actually, in making movies. DC is still kind of coming along. The new Superman movie, actually, will be a good test of how DC's doing.
Comic book movies have become a billion-dollar industry, and even though this comic store owner is very pro-superhero movie, he does have one complaint as a businessman.
Avengers comes out, and it's all, comic book this, comic book that. But Nick Fury pulls a collectible card out of his pocket and says, Coulson had this, instead of a copy of Captain America number 100.
From the big screen to mobile screens, digital comics are the newest form. You can access Comic Company's complete library with your smartphone or tablet. Download them and catch up on the action anywhere you go. Even if you like the real thing, you could still jump on the digital bandwagon. Marvel Comics imprints a special code on some of their pages. Scan it with your mobile device, and it brings up videos explaining histories, artist interviews, or even makes characters come to life right before your eyes. Old school printed page, television.
If you ever need to find me, all you have to do is look up.
Film.
And Hulk. Smash.
Or digital, the experts have one piece of advice before you begin your comic book adventure.
Just stick to what you like. Pick up a couple of issues.
Who knows? Maybe you will one day have a collection of your very own. Blair Malazdrewich, Global News.